Today I'm sitting down with my great friend and one of the true guitar heroes of our generation, James Nichols. But don't take my word for it. What about Joe Bonamassa?
Jared's such a nice cat and like seriously one of the best players that come along in 25 years.
Joe's word's not good enough for you. What about Wylde?
You know, for me, when I saw Jared playing the first time, how committed he is to blues music. He's all in.
If you haven't met Jared before, you're in for a real treat. And I know it's kind of a clickbaity title, but I'm serious about this. Think about what a guitar hero is. Make guitar players around them better, know their guitar history, can improvise anything great on the spot, and has presence. Jared has a lot of that. I also find that guitar heroes have a uniqueness to their guitar playing, but also a familiarity where anyone, guitar player or not, can hear it and be like, that's nice right there. But you'll see throughout this video all the things that make Jared great, and we'll start with one of my favorite qualities about him, the fact that he relies on one thing for his guitar tone, one ancient holy grail, which he left at his house, but luckily I had a grail for him. Let's get started. Without further ado, James Nichols.
Still got the Klon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Want me to grab that for you instead? Jared, we've known each other for a little while now, but this is the first time we've really sat down and shot the guitar.
Yes, this is, because we're just buddies and we just do other stuff. But we did jam together that one time. Sam Ash,
I love those people who work there, and
they loved it. Yeah, it's always sad to see the music stores, you know, go, especially something like that. But like, good memories. But the good people, we'll see them somewhere else.
I love Sam Ash. What's your favorite music store memory?
Well, I know my worst one is Guitar Center in Brookfield, Wisconsin. So I used to have my mom, she'd drop me off and they knew I was coming. And they're like, oh, it's that kid again. I was like 15. Yeah. Right when I first started playing, I would try every guitar on the wall, no matter if it was like the good, the bad, the ugly. I had no like problem grabbing like expensive custom shops, and they just look at me like, this kid, man, you know? So I remember there was a Flying V and it was on the top rack. Okay. And I was like, how am I gonna get that thing, you know? No one would help me after a while because they knew I wasn't gonna buy anything. There was a small amp and I'm like, you know what? I'll just put a foot on the amp, come down, get the guitar, put my foot on the amp, lose my footing, have the Flying V off the hook, come down on my other foot, totally roll my ankle, Flying V hits the ground. Dink. No one saw it.
Nice.
Dude,
got away with it.
I get up and I'm like, oh, I really rolled my ankle. And I'm like, I probably broke the guitar. I'm going to have to pay for it. And I look at the guitar and like, I couldn't believe it. It was fine. You couldn't tell.
It was literally a Flying V.
It flew. And I looked at it and I was like thinking the headstock was going to be broke. It was fine. That was probably the worst story because I remember my mom picked me up and I walk out and I'm like, I'm one leg. She's like, what happened? I was like, I don't want to talk about it.
Guitar battle with a Flying V.
But my favorite guitar store memory was where I grew up. There was a shop called Cashmere Music. It's where I got my first guitar. This was in Mugwanago, Wisconsin, like southeastern. Mom and pop shop. And my first guitar was a Washburn X Series. Nice. It was kind of like a Strat style, came with the amp, a pick, cable, whatever. I had the guitar for like 2 weeks and I was like, man, I could already tell. I was like, this thing's pretty jank. You know, I was like, it kept breaking strings and I was like, it wouldn't stay in tune. Not that I knew really what I was doing at all. Right. But I went back in that music shop and I had it for my lesson. And I was kind of like bumming. And I looked on the wall and there was a Dan Electro. It was called a Hodad. Oh yeah. And I remember I saw this guitar and I remember seeing Jimmy Page like How the West Was Won. And he sits down and he starts playing, you know, I'm not in the... Gotta get out there. But he's doing that whole thing, and I'm going, oh, that's so cool. So I see the guitar, and I'm like, I'll never be able to afford that. And I'm pull it down, and I'm trying to play it and stuff, and the guy saw I was into it. I think it was like $200.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, playing it, 45 minutes goes by, hour goes by, and he's like, you really like that guitar, don't you? I was like, yeah, man. And I was like, I wish I could have it, but I don't have the money. And I remember him going, I'll tell you what, we'll take your old guitar back, and then if you come here and every time you come for a lesson, you take out the trash, clean up a little bit, he's like, you can have that guitar.
Pretty nice deal right there.
Dude, that guy, his name was Vince, I still like thank him for that because that was like a huge moment. Because when I got home and I had that guitar, I was like, all right, now I got the guitar. It's like, now I gotta, yeah, it was up to me. So that was probably my coolest moment.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, man.
He opened the door for you, literally.
It was crazy, man. It went from like one night being like, all right, I don't want to play, to having this guitar. And I remember just looking at it. It's like when I first got like a Les Paul, I would just look at it and I'd be like, that's it. You know, it's like holy. It was like, that's how you make all the music. That's the key.
And did you ever, I remember you said you got a guitar that was janky and it came with a pick.
Yeah, dude.
And you don't use a pick now. Mm-hmm. Did you ever use a pick at any point?
Of course, let me see your pick.
Okay.
So I remember, so I'm lefty. So when yeah, so when I first picked up a guitar, I wanted to use really pointy picks.
I know, it's a new thing.
Let it be, is this a new thing?
That's a pointy
new trend, everybody.
The pointy 8/8.
T-Bone's using the pointy, what'd you call it? The pointy 8/8s, dude?
Yeah.
So I was holding it like this, and when I was picking up that guitar, the Washburn, it came with a free guitar lesson. So I go in the room, and the guy goes, hey man, and I remember I walked in, I'll never forget this, his name was Craig Fremoth, and I'll never be able to do what he did, but he had a bumblebee, and he went, he does it, and I'm like, teach me how to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So I pull out my guitar, I'm like, yeah, show me how to do that. So I'm holding it like this, and he's like, dude, you gotta flip it. Flip your guitar. So I go like this, and I go like this, and I'm holding it, and he goes, you need to use a guitar pick. So he hands me a guitar pick.
Yeah.
So I learned how to play with a pick for probably like a year. And like, I got pretty good. I haven't played with a pick in a while, but this is a sharp pick. So I remember what I would do is I would hold it, and the first riff I ever, Black Sabbath, right? And then I remember, I learned how to palm mute, and then I started to learn like riffs like, well, the big riff I learned. But whenever I tried to go faster with a pick, it was like my motor skills got weird. It's like I tighten up, right? And then if I tried to play lead, I could do it, but it just was like. It never felt right. So I would always trying to put the pick like here, and then I would play with my fingers. I was into Stevie, and I was like, oh, he listens to this guy, Albert King. And when Stevie would play Albert King, he'd have a pick, right? And he would use his middle finger to pull up, so he'd go like. Feels weird with the pick. Well, Albert King would go. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, he's using his fingers.
Yeah. I
thought that was really cool. So then there was a guy, Hubert Sumlin, who played with a guy named Howlin' Wolf, and he used his fingers. I got to jam with him. And when he played, he'd be like. I was like, I want it to sound like that.
Oh yeah.
So I started to play with a pick, do the no pick thing, and I remember being like, wow, now it's like really just like, no pun intended, like hands on. It was like, I gotta make all the sounds with my hands. Started using my thumb as like a downstroke, index, middle, ring as like an upstroke. I'm turning off the Klon for a sec.
Okay.
I know that's like not a good thing to do because it always
the
sounds
Klon should always be on.
Why would you turn that off? So like, if I did like a downstroke, I'd use my thumb, you know, just, and it's a lot more thumpy, but as like you kind of adjust your attack and where you play, you get that. And then my index finger would go up, so I go as simple as that, middle, up. And then even the ring can go up. I don't really use the pinky, but when I'd play chords, I'd do like that Eric Johnson thing where I could grab them, like pull them up. And that's just pulling up on the strings. My thumb could go as, I could do it. If I want to do strumming, I'd use the thumb, you know. And then I could do like the finger picking thing, right? Then I noticed I could start doing like chicken picking. So if like I was like, oh, that sounds kind of countryish. Kind of cool.
Awesome.
So I started to do stuff like that, and I just adapted without the pick.
That's like a whole history of the blues and James Nichols in one package.
And you didn't even ask for it. Yeah, dude. That felt awesome. I mean, one of the biggest influences, and it's funny, it comes from when I was a little kid, hearing Santo and Johnny, which is like old Hawaiian steel music.
Okay.
Do you remember that song Sleepwalk? Let me turn that. Yeah, that thing. I remember hearing that sound of the steel. That was a really big influence on me because I didn't even know what I was hearing. I thought it was just a guitar.
It's interesting that you say that because that is honestly a very succinct and confined version of everything you do, is that beautiful, soulful vocal sound. That
Dude, I love it.
Motive note, because I can hear that in even the fast stuff that you play. There's always room for that breath.
Like, I honestly, and I mean this in like every way possible, like I never thought like I was a good guitar player. I just like do my thing. I was never great at reading music, even at Berkeley, you know, I was never
None
great.
of us were.
None of us were. But
We
like
all
even
stink.
charts or like, you know, play me these chords up the neck. But then all of a sudden it comes out in different ways, which is really kind of strange. Love the guitar like you. It's like we just play because we love it. How many hours a day? Uncountable. But yeah, it's interesting, man. It's just my own way of kind of like taking it in and then putting it out. I think that's a cool thing though about guitar. You know, a lot of players, it's like we always want to feel really comfortable. And I get that. It's cool to feel comfortable on the guitar. You're like, dude, I got my tone, I got my amp, I got my pedals, everything. But it's really challenging, but also really rewarding thing when you play through stuff that like you don't usually play through. Even like me and you have the footage, but we're putting on your amp, and I'm like, I don't know, let's see if it works. And it was one of the patch cables. Oh, right here. It's just fun, I think, to challenge yourself and to just feel it, man.
I got another jam for us.
What you got?
This is going to be a sexy, sensual one.
Come on, baby.
Some contrast in our interview.
Give us a little contrast in our life. What you got? Ooh.
You can just rip over this.
Yeah. Is that your little ditty?
It's a little ditty I got.
It's a little ditty, baby.
Little ditty I got in the tank.
It's awesome.
Everything sounds good in E minor.
It sounds amazing. Dude, that guitar intonates very well.
I'll say. I haven't tuned it once.
That's amazing.
Whose guitar is this?
Oh wait, holy cow!
Hey, by the way, I need like a real signature on the
I
back
could
of
do
this
that,
before
dude, if you got a little sharp.
Before you leave,
All right.
I want to get into some of the JJN techniques.
Oh boy.
You do the gunslinger thing.
Yeah.
I want you to show me, first of all, the chords that you're doing. Is it just like these little things like this? And also, you're up here on the neck, like, are you massaging it?
Yeah, man.
Where's your volume at? How do you do that?
So the first person, like, I heard Stevie Ray Vaughan play that song "Dirty Pool." It's an old blues standard, but when he played, he had a pick. It's in the key of D minor, right? And he would play, and it was like the whole song. But he's got his pick. It is incredible. How your arm isn't falling off by the end of the song. He's just fluttering the whole time, right? And I was like, man, that is so cool. I wanted to have that kind of technique, and it started in like big, heavy blues rock solos. So like I would play, let's say I was in the key of E, right? I'm up here on the 16th fret on the G and the high E string, and let's say I would go like this. Because you'd hear Hendrix do that, and it was like, how does he do that? So if you just walk that all the way up 16, 17, 18, 19, get you that 9th chord, right? Now I'm getting all theoretical, right? But if you go... I'm taking like the pad of my index finger and I'm just rubbing it across those strings, and with the volume down, it just sounds like this. It's like I'm
So you're
itching,
not
dude.
pressing on it. It's almost like your fingers, it's not limp, but it's just kind of there to be a...
That's it.
I don't know what to compare it to, but...
I don't know, dude. But all you're doing is you're just rubbing that thing like that, right? If you do that with enough finesse, you can take what's really cool, like if you play an A minor chord, right? Check this out. So I'm doing like kind of like little walk. And you can go as far as you want, but essentially I'm doing triads across the G, B, and E, you can start with this kind of a very simple minor triad. Go up 2 frets. Kind of slide that into it. I don't know. You're the smart, tell the people, what is that, a sus? 13, right?
Very nice.
So what you're doing there, and then you're just rubbing across that.
You have this incredible control over harmonics
Okay.
and ringing open strings.
Thank you.
That is something that I really love about your playing, the
man.
expressiveness that you get out of that stuff. Because I grew up on like Satriani and Vi and that kind of weird guitar stuff. I had never really, you know, there's Hendrix whammy stuff every now and then, or Jimmy Page, Eddie Van Halen feedback stuff, but you make it happen naturally. Can you go through some of those tricks? Because they're really useful. Like I called them frosting or decoration before, but they're really, I think, one of the coolest parts of your sound.
Thanks, man. Well, okay, so check this out. So not using a pick, it kind of forced me to do different things. Like I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, cool. A lot of like the sound, especially if I'm playing through a Les Paul, let's say it's like, it's kind of really warm mid-range, right? I found harmonics as kind of a way to kind of poke out, right? So if I did something, and also like doing the power trio and playing bass drums, guitar, I would want to do this stuff. I'd always hear it in my head, and I would want to do this stuff where it sounded like there was another guitar behind me. Now there's a guitar player named David Grissom.
I know him. He's amazing.
He's amazing. I remember being a kid and watching him play in Austin, Texas. It was really impressionable on me. He would play something like, he would play a G, right? So here's a G. He would hit the open G under it. And I was like,
it's like always in stereo.
Oh, yeah.
That's yeah, you're right. That is his playing is just expansive.
And I would just hear it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I started to say
the only riff that you just played was.
That's all I did.
But it sounded like a whole orchestra there.
Yeah, so you hit it, and then if you really kind of put a little bit more on there, you go. Step one, playing things you already know and putting a string under it. So I started to say to myself, okay, cool. Like that sounds thicker and bigger already. And also I can't not say it. It's like David Grissom. There's a guitar player named Doyle Bramhall II. Huge. I was like absorbing his stuff. And then Billy Gibbons. I would hear these sounds. It was like, and I thought to myself, okay, if I saw him do that in G, let's think about it. E. Yeah, of course. A low E, a high E, right? So I could play. I could do a weird thing where I pedal it up. Starting to warm up. No, but so I'm doing this stuff and now I'm in E. And I would go to every single thing where an open string could fit in. Now, if it wasn't a root, like let's say we're in the key of B. We got a cool B. What if it's an E? So an E in B is a fourth, right? I'm getting nerdy, but it's like, okay,
this is what it's
let's
all
go,
about.
baby.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, okay, well now it's gonna sound like I'm playing with a fourth above it, right? So I could go. And then I thought to myself, wow, I'm gonna really be able to twist my ear, because I could play the same riff. I could go. And I could put the fourth above. I could put all these different notes. Yeah, exactly. And going along, you know, there's certain keys like a C sharp. And it's like, you think Hendrix, right? And I'm like, okay, well, like, I know that, like, Hendrix, he would play riffs with that open E in it, like, well, I could use the E. So you could go anywhere doing that, right?
And just to reiterate what you're saying here, when you say I could use the E, I could use the B, those are the open strings in these key signatures. I'm in C sharp, I can use the E, because that's that third there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now you talk about harmonics, right? And it was like, well, how do I do more? Because like, probably like all of us guitar players, you're like, okay, cool, I learned like a new thing. What else can I do with it? Where else can I take it? So I started to go, well, what if I do a harmonic? Let's just say we do a 12th fret harmonic on a G, right? And I go, okay, now what if that's cool? You can still kind of hear that ring out. What if I do it on the 5th fret? like, well, what's that? It just sounds cool. And then you start to add a volume swell, you go. That's all a trick. That's my whammy bar back here.
I don't have one of those.
That's that 1952 whammy bar.
Yes.
No, so you start to say to yourself, okay, now I can do these harmonics. And where do harmonics fit? So like most of us know, like if we're playing in the key of E minor, we could do our, right? James and Kirk told us how to do that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, yes. And then I could do a, you know. I don't know, I just try and do stuff like that. And then the one weird one, people will hear, I'll be like jamming out, right? And I'll hit these like pinch harmonics. You gotta just get it just right. And the amp is pretty quiet, but like when you have that thing rocking it, you know, you can hit something. So it's kind of like the Billy Gibbons thing.
You're scratching it to get it right.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't have a pick, and you need most of the time need a pinch. A pinch
you need
of a pick to play
pick.
A pinch harmonic.
You can do it two ways. You could do it like a bass player, right? You could put your pick or your finger, your thumb on the string, and then you go. But you got to pull it off like right away. You gotta. It's like the Billy Gibbons, one of those songs, "Give Me All Your Lovin'" or whatever. He goes. That's what you were saying. I'm literally just aggressively pushing down the string underneath it and hitting it with the.
Any sort of fun that you can have on the guitar, it doesn't really matter what genre. You can always find a way to have fun within your context, and I feel like you do that so well, and I strive to infuse that more in my playing, because there's a difference between, I don't play on stage as much as you nearly at all. You play all over the place, and there's a difference that you learn about yourself when you're in that live environment that I think is part of it, because I can be sitting in my studio all the time and be like, I am a demigod. I can play all this, and then it doesn't, you know, maybe you don't access it as much, or you have the need to access it as much. So I think that live guitar playing can really help you find, you know, I think that I have exactly what I want out of my guitar, but there's always more.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So can you talk about like your experience playing live and like how it's impacted your guitar playing outside of where it started in the shed?
Absolutely. So think about it this way. I mean, probably a lot of people that are watching your channel might look at me and go, what is this? Who is this idiot? Sure, totally. I would say the same thing.
They say that about all of us.
But for me, I have been on the road. I started going on the road in 2014 doing a trio thing. And it first started, we started to go and do these like, kind of like music festivals, but it would be like motorcycles and music. So I'd be jamming with like Leonard Skinner and all these kind of bands. Then we started to go over to Europe. So I started touring pretty heavy in 2014 is when I did my first dates. I probably did 75 shows. And then 2015, it was like 100. And then it just started to go. In 2019, I was on the road for like 308 days straight. Whether I was doing shows, clinics, I did not go home. Like one that was scary that comes up really, that's very appropriate, is we were playing in Arizona somewhere. And we were playing, maybe there was about 400 or 500 people in this club. And I remember it being like a Sunday night, and it was just kind of a weird gig. And everything in the venue, it didn't like look right. It just like, it was kind of like put together bad. Like you looked at the stage and you were like, huh.
Was that stage there a few hours ago?
Exactly, kind of vibe. So they had these catwalks, right, out to the corners, and like you could go out there and play or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I'm gonna go walk out on that catwalk, and I'm gonna go play this solo or whatever.
Yeah.
But for some reason in my mind, I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna stay back and stay with the band on the stage. Like it just didn't look right. guy in the band after me decides to go out on the catwalk. They put like, you know, like drop ceiling.
Fake,
The
basically.
fake.
Just like nothing. You can't
There's
stand
nothing.
on
He stands on it, he goes down 8 feet with his guitar.
it. No.
Yes, breaks his leg.
Damn.
Yeah.
So how has it impacted your guitar playing? Where were you before you started racking up hundreds of shows versus before? What's like the biggest, you know, aside from endurance,
Yeah.
which you clearly work out, that's an important part, I think.
Ooh. Yeah, yeah.
You know, you underrate the physical side of playing guitar the way you do, but
Yes.
it's a real, to get the notes out that I imagine you're not playing 8-gauge strings.
No, these are 11s.
Yeah, that's
11s
tough,
and standard.
dude.
Yeah.
And it's obviously part of the sound, but you got to be strong to do it. So what other than the endurance do you rely on?
Oh my goodness. So first things first, like before I was getting on the road, I didn't have a clue. Like, how would I have a clue what it's like, right? Like, I thought people hop in tour buses and like everyone does stuff for you and whatever.
Yeah.
So our first tour was in a Subaru Outback.
Nice.
3 guys in an Outback going all the way up the West Coast.
Yeah.
Where do we stay? We didn't even know where we were gonna stay. Like,
We're here.
do we get hotels? Oh, well, we don't have money for hotels. Guess we're just gonna sleep in the Subaru. You know what I mean? So like, I remember we did 4 days. We went up to Seattle and back. We did a show in San Francisco, Seattle, drove back to LA. You would have thought I felt like I was gone for 10 years. I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted, right? I had no idea how to be on the road. And I think that's one of the hardest things, like the physicality for sure, because there's the diet. What are we eating?
Yeah.
You can either like fast food all the time, gas station food, or like you have to figure out how to like properly eat. Where am I gonna sleep? And also like the partying aspect, like many people will start doing that and then it's just like you're totally done.
That replaces the music almost.
It's the
or
worst.
compromises it at least.
It's the worst thing you could do. I'm so lucky I never went down that road. Sure, we're of age. We could have a drink or two if we want to.
Yeah.
But some of these people that are out there, they're just drinking way too much or doing way too much of certain things. And it's like, it's a ticking time bomb until like they're just going to be too, you know, and then you have to do it every single day where you're like, okay, we got to get up for a show, sound check, load in. We're doing a meet and greet. And then it's like, and then we got to drive. We're driving 6 hours after. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the grind of it is real. And I would say as a guitar player now, I remember the first tour, I had this cool pedal board. And like I was so proud of it, I made it myself. I had like wah, delay, a few overdrives, all this stuff. And I remember like show 2, it was like something's not working. And
Literally
I was like,
just happened in this ridiculous studio.
yeah, in this incredible room.
Yeah.
And it's like, it just happens. And it was like for the delay and I was like, okay, cool, something's wrong with that pedal or the input on it. I'm gonna get rid of it. It'll go off the board. By the end of this tour, which was like 45 days, dude, I was plugging straight into the amp. Because everything that I thought I needed, I realized quickly, I was like, well, I don't really need that. I don't need that.
I can make this delay happen with this ringing string.
Exactly.
It's the same ambient
And,
effect.
oh, I need a volume swell. I'll just use my volume. And it's like, oh, cool. And at this point, I was playing like a single pickup. And I was like, I'll just roll down the tone knob and I'll get like that total, you know, that, I can get a wah-wah. You can do the poor man's wah. Anyways, I realized quickly how many things I didn't need. I guess it's just funny to see how other people go, especially now guitar players are like, oh, yeah, whatever. Sounds like a guitar. And you're just kind of like, great.
But
you
this
know?
is a 50, what
This is
year
a 1952 Gibson Les Paul, man. And they're like, yeah, we don't care.
Look at the checking, bro.
Dude, that checking adds tone, bro.
Legit. Somebody sweat on that.
That's real sweat. Do you know what this thing smells like? You're just jamming with friends, whatever. Playing live, it shows another side of it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let's do another jam.
Let's jam, baby. What you want to do?
seem very educational about you as well. I noticed that as a teacher myself. You've done clinics as well as meet and greets and shows and things. Is there a lesson that you learned in your guitar playing life from someone that you think maybe other guitar players would benefit from that they haven't heard a million times? Is there something you got in the back vault?
I've been so lucky, man. Like when I go on tour, I get, like you said, I get to do these clinics, whether it be with like Epiphone or Black Star or Gibson, whatever it is. The one thing I notice is that culturally, there's incredible guitar players everywhere. Music is the universal language, right? But like I'll be in Bosnia or I'll be somewhere, Cairo, and I can't necessarily relate to the person I'm jamming with, but with the guitars, everything feels right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I notice is there's good people everywhere, and there's incredible musicians everywhere, incredible guitar players. But it's like my guard is always down with players. Like it's not a competition, and the biggest thing I think holding a lot of guitar players back from finding themselves truly within the instrument is that kind of idealism, where it's like, well, I'm not going to play with that person because they're better than me, or you know, they're faster or whatever. If
I didn't play with every guitar player because they were better than me, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be.
That's the way I feel too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's mutual respect, I think, and that starts with, you know, check your ego at the door. I wish there was another less cliche saying, but that serves you in any circumstance, let alone music, where everybody's egos are through the roof. It seems like you kind of have to be to be like, people are going to want to buy tickets to me. You kind of have a little bit of self-confidence, but
and you got to be a little crazy to really go for it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing I notice is a lot of my favorite guitar players, I've been so lucky to jam with like so many.
Who are your favorite highlights?
Oh my goodness.
Other than me.
There's this guy Tyler. I mean, man, I've gotten to jam with everyone from like my old school heroes like Leslie West and Jack Bruce from Cream, but like Slash and the guys from Cheap Trick and Skinner and ZZ Top guys and Peter Frampton and Zach Wylde, just a ton of Paul Gilbert. I'm looking at Petrucci, Steve Vai. I've gotten to jam with all those guys, and I feel so lucky. And a lot of times I laugh. When I'm literally in the moment, I laugh because I'm going, how did I even get here?
Yeah.
Right? But the one constant I realize with 99.9% of these players is everyone has ego, everyone has their own idea, but like, I remember like Steve Vai, he looked at me when I got on stage with him. He looked at me and goes, what do you want to play? I was like, let's play over anything. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, did I just say that?
Oh, shit.
So he starts playing a thing, and it was like, the band's, and I'm like,
we're going Phrygian, baby.
I was like, let's go, dude. So, but the thing about it was, walking up there, I could feel like, you know, there's this like energy that we all guitar players have, but it wasn't an ego thing. Yeah. And I felt comfortable. So if there's one lesson I wish that I could just tell everyone is stop competing. Stop thinking someone's better than you, because it's a waste of time. Instead, be like, Tyler's incredible. How did you play those chords you just played? Because I want to add that to my playing. I think that's just such a healthier way, and a more like nurturing way for all of us as guitar players to be more of like a collective. Because I think that's really where the best music comes from, is a place of like, you know, amazing group of musicians get together, they create. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to go there because I'm totally better than them, or I've done more than they have. That just, I feel like, is just so just dumb.
Yeah, you're not going to be worse off meeting up with someone or playing with them. Only going to be surprised. If you're like, yep, this is exactly what I thought, then at least you know your radar is spot on. But keep that inside and be good. It's the only way we can fight the AI musicians is if we all come together.
That's right, dude. Pretty soon we're going to have our own army.
We can't divide against ourselves.
And not only that, it's like the best, I bet you would say the same thing. When you play with players that are better than you, to me, I learn more in that moment than I could like online, you know, looking up, oh, how do I do this technique or this? Like that real world thing where it's like, I'm like in the lion's den with like a killer band, and it's like, I gotta play.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
Since you can take it as discouragement or inspiration, and the best players are inspired by it, and you know, everybody can't be the best, so people are gonna be discouraged.
You're gonna fail, and you're gonna like play the wrong notes. I do it all the time, and I actually like laugh at myself, because then I go, oh man, because you're human, and it's like, that's okay. It's just, you have to keep playing, keep growing, because that's the only way that any of this works.
Spoken like a true player himself. This is an honor, man. I'm glad we got to do this.
Finally, we're actually friends, and we've never really
this
done
is the first of many musical experiences we'll share.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks for having me, Kevin.